So we're going to kind of get a little retrospective and a little bit looking ahead for this video this week. We're going to wrap up 2023 and look ahead to 2024.
Let's go.
Welcome back to another edition of Bourbon Kingdom. I'm David.
And I'm Zach.
And today we are going to do a little wrap up of 2023 and just whiskey in general, and then maybe look a little bit ahead to what 2024 could bring.
Yeah, so I kind of like whenever, I listen to different podcasts about people talking about like, oh, what can like the new year, happen or whatever, and then like kind of talking like a year in review, which we kind of already did like our whiskey of the year kind of like stuff already.
Yeah.
But just kind of as a whole, before we start talking about 2024 and whiskey, what was kind of like your final thoughts, I guess, or overall thoughts about 2023?
I would say that 2023 was overall really good, but not anything like I would go, this is the greatest year in bourbon in the history of mankind. I don't think that was, but I think there was a lot of good bourbons that came out like as a whole. And I think we may even talked about this in our end of year stuff, was there wasn't the standouts that there were in 2022.
Yeah, I agree.
But there was just a lot of good
I think there was
bourbon.
A ton of depth
in
there.
Yeah.
And
so to me, that's what I look at.
So I agree. Yeah. Where in 2022, you had some amazing whiskey that came out. Heaven Hill 17, Jack Daniel's Small Batch Coy Hill, even the William Heaven Hill 15 year, Parker's, double
all
barrel blend. Like you had a lot of WLW GTS too in that year.
Yeah.
All great stuff. I think this year, I don't think we had one bottle that per se was that peak or that bar that was set. But I think you had more depth in this year, like where I think it was much harder for us to get a top 20 this year than what there was. And there was more 10-8s this year too.
Yes.
For a top 20 than what there was in the year in past. So I agree with that. I also think in this year too, we kind of start seeing from the COVID, I guess, balloon in whiskey. And when I say balloon in whiskey, I'm not talking about just secondary. I mean, that is obviously part of it. But we had a 2-year effect from COVID where people got into it.
Yeah.
And then, so, nothing was open. Everybody was getting into it. Everybody was buying a whole bunch of stuff. And prices were like, we know who you are who kept jacking up prices, which is pretty much everybody.
Yeah.
But certain brands, you took it a little bit too far. So you had all of that craze go, and then you had the lack of product. And now, since everything's back open, you had a lack of product for another year where all the bars had to get stuff, all the restaurants had to get stuff, stores that were closed and had to restock with stuff.
Yeah.
So you had like this glutton for 2 years of nothing. And now you're starting to see stuff more, I don't want to say sitting on shelves, but it's definitely much more available for a long time in our area. Now, our area is different than most because we're obviously in like the bourbon, like this is the main part of the country where people not only want to hunt for bourbon, but they come here for tourism.
Yeah.
And you could argue certain spots in Tennessee and Texas and everything else. Sure, I imagine, that plays a factor too.
It does.
But you have so many people local that are into it, on top of everybody wants to come to Kentucky and then hunt.
Yeah.
So just like basic stuff like what you're saying, like for a long time, we couldn't get Smoke Wagon.
No.
And then once we did get Smoke Wagon, it did not sit on shelves. No. You probably got it allocated about once or twice a month.
And now it sits on shelves.
Now it sits on shelves.
Yeah. Which is what Aaron wanted.
Oh, sure. Yeah, Aaron wanted that.
For sure.
Buffalo Trace did not sit on shelves. Like just basic Buffalo Trace. You could find it if you knew kind of where to go.
Yeah.
But between locals wanting it, the popularity of it growing, and then people coming in from out of town, and I get that's more of a niche thing, tourism and stuff. I get all that. But my point is like now we're starting to see a massive amount of that coming around. So I think the glutton of that is going to... I think bourbon is still on a trend and still ticking up and everything. But I think you're getting ready to start seeing it like with that kind of stuff level out.
Yeah.
But anyways, so I would agree with you in 2023. I think there was also, well, actually, I'll save that. I'll kind of get into that here in a little bit.
Yeah.
All right. So talking about 2024, what, so we're getting ready to say, let's just talk like new trends. What I think is going to become popular is craft whiskey, but good quality craft whiskey.
Yeah.
So we just did some review, or we just reviewed some, I don't know if the review will be out yet, of some Still Austin stuff. To me, their craft, I think it was excellent.
Yeah. I think across the board it was excellent.
Chattanooga's been excellent for a while.
Yes.
I think Pursuit's starting to put out some really good stuff. Mm-hmm. I think Peerless has really stepped up their game. Hard Truth. I can keep going through, and we had a long time where I think craft was, you were spending bad money. If I'm being honest with you, there's a lot of young stuff out there, and I think there was this whole thing about saying like, well, you have to support craft because they're the little guys, it's the mom and pops, and that's how we're going to get better overall whiskey. Well, yes and no. You are like trying to support local and whatever these distilleries are, but if it's not good, then you're still supporting a bad product.
Right.
So there's too much whiskey out there to be had.
Yes.
And I don't want to support bad whiskey. But I think we're going to start seeing, because you see all these distillers and you see workers, and I also think, which is a big thing, and I work in the chemical industry, so I've talked to other people in whiskey. Technology is going up. Just like the pure fact of technology is getting better for smaller distilleries.
Yeah.
Mostly because the big distilleries lead the way. So we're starting to see the benefits of that as well. So
yeah. To me, I'm curious to see what finish product becomes popular.
See, I almost wanted to say that.
Because for me, looking at
I think that's actually a really good one.
In 2021, it was the single malt. No, I mean, in 2022, it was the single malt.
Wait, are you talking finish, or are you talking new whiskey?
The finish and new whiskey.
Oh, okay.
All that kind of...
What is quote unquote... Yeah. Well, I think we're actually going to get a lot of single malt this year.
Yeah.
I think we just got some of it last year. I think we're actually going to get a lot of it this year.
But I think that was the trend. And then the one that really pains me is the Amburana finish was the thing
started taking
in
off,
2023. Amburana finish was the biggest finished thing that you could do, and I'm not sure you should have, but you did.
Here,
and so I'm curious to see what the next finished product is going to be. Sherry cask were really big too for a long time, and people are still using sherry cask. As a matter of fact, we're getting something from somewhere that is going to be a sherry cask, and you're just like, okay. So I'm just curious to see what the next what new barrels they're going to come up with to start trying to age something with.
So I want to add on something to that. I think whenever you look at what Penelope did with Rio, I think that just from us talking, and we know the same people, we have talked to them, that opened up eyes to people being like, man, we could combine some of these finishes together and do some things.
Yeah.
And some of these people think they have better product than what Penelope has.
Yeah.
So they're like, we can maybe do this better. So I think something like that in finished stuff, I think some of the trend, we're always going to have bad whiskey that's finished, because you got to do something with it, because it's not, it's literally crap. So you try to finish it to make it better.
Yeah.
I think there is going to be a trend of people, I don't know if it's this year or next year, that try to take good quality whiskey and try to finish it to get something really, really excellent.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see that.
Something that I think is going to take a step back with stuff is there is literally so many brands out there right now.
Too many.
Oh, yes.
And I think there is so much whiskey out there available to be had.
I don't know how some of these places stay in business, because they can't sell that much bourbon, because
I don't know how it works.
It sits on the shelf.
We go to liquor stores locally, I imagine, obviously.
Yeah.
But there's always a new product out there to be had.
Always.
and it's like, hey, try this and try that and blah 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 blah. I think we're going to start seeing a stagnant. I'm not saying people are going away yet, but I think you're going to start seeing where products sitting on shelves, because there's just a lot of the same stuff. Yeah. There's a lot of the same MGP Barton products out there. I don't even necessarily think that they're bad, but it's like, if I know I have to go spend $120 to try this product over here, why am I not just going to grab a Sam Houston or a Calumet?
Yeah.
If it's all Barton.
Yep.
Like if it's literally all Barton.
Totally
or if it's 5-year-old MGP from this guy over here, why am I not just going to go pick up a Nashville Barrel Company or a Smoke Wagon that I trust and I know they're good quality?
Yeah, for sure.
So I think
you're totally right on
I think we're going to start seeing some of that, and these companies are going to have to pivot and figure it out or go away.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
The next topic I want to talk about really quick is pricing. Money. I am actually hopeful for this.
I think, even though, like, for me looking at it, even though not everything, but the vast majority of things have gone up 10 to 15 to 20%.
Yeah.
That's just kind of the nature of inflation. It just happens. So what you paid, $35 for 2 years ago, you're going to pay $45 for. It's just kind of the nature. Now, some of it has been ridiculous in some ways, and it is what it is. But honestly, the only things that have gotten, maybe I would say, on the ridiculous side are the highly allocated stuff.
There's some of that.
And so for me, looking at it,
that I don't think is going away.
No, that's not going away. Like, it is what it is. But what I have noticed is some of the stuff that used to fetch more on the secondary market has kind of, unless it's, let's just take, for example, your Old Forester 150th anniversary bottle.
Okay,
let's just take that. That's a ridiculous bottle. That's a unicorn of all unicorns. It is what it is. It's a $2,500 bottle. It is what it is. But I looked at that bottle and thought for sure people would be able to get $8 to $10,000 for it because of what it is and the limited nature of it.
Sure.
And the secondary market did not.
It didn't
fetch that out. And the same with, let's just say, Wild Turkey Generations. Let's say Russell's Reserve Single Rick House. All of those things, what you paid for it, and if you were hoping to flip it to make some max profit, you weren't getting that, because you're getting $400 for this, maybe not even that, $375 to $400 for the Single Rick House. The Generations is right at $450 or $500, so you're not really making any money. So if you bought it, you might as well keep it, because you're not making any money on it. And so, like, that's the stuff that I look at. But overall, in general, I think the MSRP of some of the big boy stuff has kind of leveled off a little bit in some ways.
Well, you know what I noticed the other day? Like Russell's Reserve, I noticed that the other day. It went down in price.
Yeah.
Russell's Reserve single barrel, and which is good. Like that was at one point in time, it was $88, and I was like, this is ridiculous.
And even the Elijah Craig, like, it came down in price.
It did come down.
So
now I do think that allocated stuff is going to go up. Like Four Roses LE went up this year.
Yeah.
Buffalo Trace doesn't really go up, except for like the really like entry, like the Taylor, the Blantons.
Yeah.
Eagle Rare I think went up, but I think it came back down again. That kind of stuff I think is going to continue to go up. I don't know what Wild Turkey's going to do this year. I just assume it's going to be ridiculous.
Just bank on the first word of their name, and you will just kind of know. It's wild. Like, it's just wild.
But I do think that people, like, I don't know how, I'm just going to say it. I don't know how Rabbit Hole sells like these $400 to $600 bottles they put out. And I think a lot of that stuff is going to go away because that stuff just sits.
Yeah.
And it's
even their $1,000 one or $1,400 one.
Like, whatever it is. But I think
it's like the
craft, yeah, exactly. I think the craft stuff that doesn't have a following, I think a lot of that is going to go away. I think in the sense of pricing.
Yeah.
I think pricing is going to settle a little bit, and I think it's going to come back. It's still going to go up a little bit, But if you look at trends that were before COVID, I think we're going to start hitting more of that price point where they were going up a little bit, but you really didn't notice.
Yeah.
And I think we'll settle back in because I think we are due for a ton of whiskey on the market.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also, I'm just going to say this right now. Secondary is going to level off. Secondary has taken a huge, massive hit.
Yeah. With the exception of a few things, it has taken a massive hit.
Well, I mean, outside of what? Like Dusty's? Like, I think Dusty's
yeah. Or even like really special bottles. Like, let's just take, I'm looking at a box right here, the Heaven Hill 17.
But that's went down.
It still somewhere hovers right around $1,000 to $1,100. I just saw one sell for like $1,100. So
you also know someone that bought one for $850.
I do know someone that bought one for $850, and I hate him most of the time. I hate him.
My point is, you right now, regardless of what you think about secondary, I'm not here to debate if you should be selling, if you shouldn't be selling. That's not the point.
It happened, so we're just talking about it.
My point to all this is that is even starting to level off too.
Yeah.
Which that I think will be a lot more reasonable, kind of going back to what it was. I think if you're somebody who was sitting there milking it for a couple years during COVID, I think that's going away.
Yeah.
I think it will. I don't know if we'll ever hit those highs again.
You never.
But I think in the sense of where, the days of GTS being over $1,000, I don't think that's happening anytime soon. No. And unless it's like some older kind of like release, for example. And I just think that even with that, a lot of that stuff's going to level off, and we're going to start seeing some of it will come down, some of it's going to stay the same-ish.
Yeah.
A lot more of your expensive stuff, in the sense of like not Dusty's, D-Tag and Kings, some of the real like limited Heaven Hill stuff.
Yeah.
You will get stuff that will come out of nowhere, like, I don't know, 13th Colony, that will be a significant amount of money because of popularity and whatever. Yeah. But for the most part, I think a lot of that stuff will end up leveling off.
Yeah. All right, so if you're looking at 2024, what's your big prediction?
So, I don't think we're going to start seeing distilleries die off yet. I think we're about 1.5 to 2 years out from seeing distilleries really being like, we got to close up shop. It is what it is. I really want to predict somebody buying somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Because I look at what MGP did with Penelope. First off, I think that deal with Penelope is wildly awesome for MGP because I think they got a steal with it now.
You mean Ross and Squibb?
Ross and Squibb, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Ross and Squibb, I think they got a steal with Penelope.
Yeah.
Even if it's all maximized, like the total value and everything at $200 million. Because the quality that they're producing, the quality of everything coming out of them now is better. I think the popularity of Penelope is continuing to grow. And I could see where, Ross and Squibb's like, we have a contract with National Barrel Company. We have a contract with Smoke Wagon. We have a contract with, I don't know, like Old Louisville. Like somebody where they're like, we could sit there, take them, give them better quality product than what they already have and keep building it up. Now, do I think like somebody like Aaron over at Smoke Wagon, I don't know if Aaron wants to sell. Like, I don't know him like that. So I think there are people out there, there's a lot of people out there that want to predict this place will sell, whatever. I don't know if that's true.
Yeah. It's hard to tell. But it's also difficult for, let's just say, Still Austin, who we did a review for. It would be difficult, I think, for Still Austin to just go, we're going to turn down your $250 to $300 million.
Sure. No, I agree with that.
We can take that, and you now own it, but we still produce it. And
I agree with you.
So who that is, it could be Still Austin, it could be Redwood Empire, it could be, who knows who else? There's so many of them out there that are doing good. What about Sagamore?
Sagamore was bought or sold this year.
Was it?
Yeah.
Where did I miss that somewhere?
I think we've talked about this.
I'll
remind you off air.
Yeah, I slept since then, so who knows? How that goes.
But here's going to be my prediction, and I think first off, there's a ton of whiskey on the market. There's a ton of people producing it. There's a ton of whiskey out there. There's a ton of really good whiskey from major players out on the market right now. So if you all remember a couple years ago, there was that 15-year-old Jim Beam that was floating around. Okay?
Supposedly.
Most of it was Jim Beam. There was some 15-year-old.
Yeah.
Ross and Squibb. Well, it was MGP at the time, but Ross and Squibb that was floating around. I think we're going to see that. I think we're going to see some high age statements from people who bought some really great whiskey from somebody. Well, I mean, that was at least theirs, and technically. But I think we're going to see some of that, where if you all remember, I think, I don't know if it was Old Pepper or somebody. There was a couple random brands that had this stuff. Old Soul.
Oh yeah, Old Soul.
So I think you had some of those too.
Yeah.
They were a good example where we knew they had the 15-year-old stuff. I think we're gonna see some of that because right now, there's some 10-year-old have milk floating around. Yeah. There's just stuff like that out there floating around that is really good stuff.
Yeah.
So the prices of all that stuff is also coming down as well. Somebody's gonna buy it.
Yeah.
Somebody's gonna buy it because they're gonna have to unload it. So I think we're gonna see some of those in single barrels or in blends or whatever it is.
Yeah. My prediction is, as always, I think it's gonna be a wild year in whiskey. There are distilleries, I feel like, always trying to one up each other. In a lot of ways, and so because they're trying to one up, there's going to be some really cool releases this year that we've not even really heard of, that are going to surprise the market probably in some ways. And so I just think it's going to be a wild, you just don't know what you're gonna get. And so part of what I like about it is that you don't know what you're gonna get. We could at any moment get some release somewhere that says Buffalo Trace is doing blah, 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 or Wild Turkey is doing blah, 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 or Heaven Hill is doing whatever, and it will not surprise me because of just the nature of what whiskey is. And they know that there's a craze at this point. They've created it over the last few years, and because they've created it, they want to sustain it for as long as possible. So it's just gonna keep doing that. So that's my prediction, is that it's gonna be wild, and we just don't know what we're in store for 2024. The other prediction, and this is my last prediction, is that Bourbon Kingdom is gonna get to 20,000 subscribers, and it's gonna be awesome, and we're gonna have a good time getting there. So hit the like, subscribe, turn on the notifications, help do your part to make us at least to the 20,000 mark. That's 7,000 people over the next 11 months to make that happen. If you do that, man, we will be so happy. We're going to start live streaming soon. We're going to do all kinds of good stuff. So
hopefully.
No, we are. We're going to do it. We said it last year too, but we're going to do it really this year. We are heading down the path. So my prediction is that Bourbon Kingdom is going to hit another level.
All right, that's our predictions. Let us know in the comments below what you all think is going to happen, the good, the bad, the ugly, whatever it is. And until next time,
we'll see you.
See you.